here with race 1 of the Scottish Fiesta Championship, the XR2s and the STs. Now, we're used to seeing the STs starting off the back of the grid, having their own separate race, but as you can see behind me, they've mixed it up and they've put everybody together, so it's true qualifying positions. I'll hand it to Richard for a run-through of the grid.
Thanks, Joe. Pole position going to George Orr, 63.255. Alongside him, Dave Colville. Then it's Blair Murdoch and Scott Robertson on row 2. XR2 pole is Peter Cruikshank, then it's Stuart Haston, Wayne McCauley and Stephen Russell, Mike Strong and Finley Adams. Row 6, Stephen Ward and Hamish Smart. Then it's Grant Anderson and Stephen Emsley, Chris Hanna and George Runcie, Stuart Robertson and Alex Shaw on the 9th row of the grid. The 10th row of the grid sees Sandy Reid in car number 15, one of the newcomers to the championship. As Joe said, the first time we've had them all going off in one place with the slightly more classic, shall we say, XR2s at the back of the field. One of the drivers making the move into the STs is Dave Colville, and we'll see him on the front row of the grid alongside George Orr. Orr in the black car there, and there is Dave Colville in red. Blair Murdoch and Scott Robertson on the second row of the grid, both in white cars. Blair in the white car with the black stripes, Scott Robertson with the white car with the green stripes, and the lead XR2 is Peter Cruikshank in red, number 3, veteran of the championship, and we'll see whether Peter might be able to take the honours this year. Lights out and away they go. Good start then by George Orr and Dave Colville off the front. There is Peter Cruikshank, and a good start from third on the grid in yellow. Not Stuart Haston, it was Stephen Russell in the yellow XR2. There he is, car number 12, who gets away ahead of Wayne McCauley. Mike Strong in red 5 is there in 4, and it's all gone off. Steve Ward spins. Stuart Robertson into him, that's the green 20 car, 15 in blue, Sandy Reid, 43 in red is Alex Shaw. Not the way we wanted to start, and that's the disappointment, of course. That's the difficult thing about being a newcomer, is if you start at the back and somebody does pile off, there's less time to react in a crowded field, and sadly a bit of damage to start the day. Not what we wanted at all, but a good clean start by George Orr, who leads from Dave Colville in second position. Then in third place, Blair Murdoch. Fourth position is Scott Robertson, and we've got a dice on for fifth with Peter Cruikshank, the leading XR2, down the inside of Stuart Haston in the yellow ST. Side by side for third position in the XR2s between Wayne McCauley and Stephen Russell. Indeed, it was second position as they come up across the line. And this is second, third and fourth place with Dave Colville, second in the XR2 championship last year. A top 10 runner ever since 2007. And showing his class here in the STs, making the move with ease. Front row qualifier, very good to see. Car prepared by Ian Cowie Racing here at Knockhill Circuit. And at the moment, George Orr showing the rest of them the way round. 2/10 quicker in qualifying. It was a 63.255, as we said. Dave Colville 63.486 and Blair Murdoch 63.587. The lap times. Peter Cruikshank, the only runner of the XR2s to get into the 63s, 63.844, and second in qualifying for the XRs, 64.2 for Wayne McCauley, the man who was fourth in the XRs last year. Will be looking to go a few places better than that this year, and possibly, you never know, making the move up later in the season or next year if he could complete his campaign. But it's Dave Colville second. A little bit of damage on the front of Blair Murdoch's car, fellow ICR Racing. You always tell Ian Cowie's cars, because they're very well prepared and turned out, and also because they have the ICR Motorsport logo in place of the number plate. So Colville in his second position, chasing George Orr at the moment. Race over 10 laps, and if you've not seen these before, the STs used to run in a separate grid with a time delay. The XR2s, of course, the long established championship here in Scotland, were the main focus, as it were, but as time goes on, the XR2s becoming slightly more classic now and difficult to get the spares, and times move on, so the STs now the cars that are given the free rein at the front. They're running with a racing slick tyre as well. And here's Dave Colville, so on board from Dave Colville, quite close to George Orr in these early stages, powers his way up the hill to reel another lap off. This is his first race. George Orr raced in the STs last year, but This is Colville's first competition in this type of car. Down Duffers Dip, great view of the brake lights going on, and indeed the turn in as they come down into Leslie's second part of the run down the hill into Scotsman Corner. George Orr at the moment through the rise up to Carloop Corner, which is where they are now. Stuart Haston still there in 5th position in the STs. The other ST, of course, we saw was Stephen Ward having those problems on the first lap, but now Colville seems to be putting a bit of pressure on. Looks to the outside line, wide racing line here. This could be about momentum carried up the hill and up into 3rd place. Well, that was at Carloop Corner. We saw him start to pull the move in the background. Scott Robertson up into 3rd position now at the expense of Blair Murdoch. Stuart Haston 5th goes through shot. There is Peter Cruikshank, race leader for the XR2s, followed by Wayne McCauley, and then the light yellow car of Stephen Russell, who's running in 8th position. So it's 5 STs leading a hatload of XR2s at the moment. George Orr nicely controlling this one at the front. He's been put under a little bit of pressure by Dave Colville, but nothing too much to worry about. Colville will certainly try again, for sure. Not a driver to give up at any stage of the race, but now he's got his mirrors full of Scott Robertson. This is going to prove a slightly different challenge to having Blair Murdoch behind him earlier on. You can see Blair a couple of lengths down. Scott Robertson's got his lights on, the old race driver trick of hoping to outpsych the car in front. And is this going to work? It's a wide line for Robertson there, and doesn't quite work for him, but tucks back in on the inside. Dave Colville goes a little bit wide, outside wheel over the dirt. Has that compromised his speed, because Robertson looks up the inside, side by side across the line here. Scott Robertson challenging for 2nd position as they come down the hill, and surely he's got his nose in front. Who's going to grab the inside into Duffers Dip? It's just about Dave Colville who gets the better and hangs on to that line. Scott Robertson though, wide racing line into Scotsman, might go for the cutback, but no, I think he's been repassed by Blair Murdoch, who was trying to dive down the inside. Blair Murdoch then trying to get 3rd place. Well, we're back on board with Dave Colville looking at the leader, who's getting a bit of breathing space. They're coming up on backmarking driver Stuart Robertson, having extricated himself from that first lap melee, finds himself very nearly a lap down, and you can see him in the distance. But Dave Colville trying to chase George Orr whilst defending from, it's Blair Murdoch back into 3rd place. Blair Murdoch into 3rd place, but here comes Scott Robertson again, looks down the inside, very tight into the hairpin, climbs through the hairpin. He's got that job done, but now goes wide on the outside line, and Blair Murdoch pulls back up the inside, side by side for 3rd place. Really good battle those two are having. And just to put it in perspective, there go the lead XR2s, Peter Cruikshank and Wayne McCauley, not very far behind. There's still some very good performance to be had out of the XR2s. Down to Scotsman Corner, backmarker coming very much into view now. Stuart Robertson still pedalling pretty well, despite some damage that he would have picked up at a long stoppage that he had, remember, for the first lap of the race. And I'm sure he'll be looking in his mirrors and seeing the newcomers happening upon him very soon now, as Dave Colville puts the leader under pressure. So Colville having a little bit of a renaissance here. He's caught the leader, he's dealt with 3rd and 4th places behind him. Stuart Haston's getting in the mix as well, and he's closer to 4th position. So Stuart Haston getting better as the race goes on. Then you can see Peter Cruikshank and Wayne McCauley getting closer in the background as well. Stuart Robertson, exemplary driving, keeps to the outside of the circuit. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all through. 4th, he's just about through now. That's Blair Murdoch. Stuart Haston coming up too. And the 5 of them very evenly matched in the STs as they go on to the last lap. But it's George Orr who has held the lead since the start, having taken pole position. Is it going to be a lights out to flag victory for George Orr? Dave Colville, length or so behind. I'm sure he won't do a do or die move on the last lap because he wants championship points as well. And now has to be mindful of Scott Robertson, who's still there in 3rd place and is closer to Colville than Murdoch is to him. So the pressure very much on the 2nd place man at the moment. And George Orr with probably car length. Let's have a look side on as we get through. It is about 1 length over Dave Colville. Now Colville with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:03.294, and that's not far away from qualifying time, so a good effort from Dave Colville, who's in second position, but it doesn't seem to be quick enough to be able to put the challenge in. Although he comes to the outside line, he's got to be mindful of Scott Robertson, who goes up the inside. Robertson up the inside to try and take second position, and they're side by side. It's all going to be about the drag race up the hill, and it's going to be, they're still side by side. Lights on for Robertson. George Orr takes the win, and just by 7 thousandths of a second, it's Dave Colville in second position, Scott Robertson in third. We just saw Peter Cruikshank beat Wayne McCauley for the XR2s. Here comes Stephen Russell, he takes third in the XR2s. Fourth is going to be Hamish Smart. Keep your eyes open for the blue car, here it is behind the flag. Hamish Smart gets fourth position. Then it's going to be Stephen Emsley and Mike Strong making a race of it to the flag as well in the XR2s, who gave us a great race too. George Orr takes the win, Dave Colville second from Scott Robertson, Blair Murdoch in fourth from Stuart Aston, and the first of the XR2s is Peter Cruikshank. Seventh, Wayne McCauley from Stephen Russell, then Hamish Smart, Stephen Emsley rounding out the top 10, then it's Mike Strong 11th from George Runcie. Stephen Ward 13th from Chris Hanna, Grant Anderson in 15th place, and Stuart Robertson in 16th.
I'm here with Dave Colville, the runner-up in one of the closest finishes we've seen in the Fiesta STs. That drag to the line, unsure if you'd even got the second place, I think.
I kind of knew when I crossed the line I'd got it. Just by a couple of inches, it was that close. It was good, clean fun, all good racing.
We're used to seeing you in the XR2 class. You're in the Fiesta ST, obviously. A big difference, power-wise, the tyres as well?
Well, the tyres are the same as what we're used to on the XR2, so that's an easy thing for me to adapt to. But the car is totally different. But they're real good fun. I'm enjoying it, so...
We'll see you here for the full season?
I hope so, until the money runs out.
As ever.
As usual, yeah.
Good stuff. Well done, Dave, and we'll see you later on this afternoon challenging for that win, giving George Orr a run for his money.
You betcha.
Welcome to another episode of Racing No Filter. Joining me in sunny California, Bill Wood, and down in sunny Florida, Peter King.
We're going to take a look at some of the products HPD has created for the 2012 Honda Civic, and specifically we're going to show you how to install an adjustable sway bar.
Until then, folks out there, you take care.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Pole position for race 2 goes to the winner of race 1. So it's George Orr on pole position with Dave Colville alongside, Blair Murdoch and Scott Robertson on row 2, and then Peter Cruikshank and Stuart Aston completing row 3. Wayne McCauley next from Steve Russell, then it's Mike Strong and Finley Adams, Stephen Ward and Hamish Smart lining up in the 6th row. Next it's Grant Anderson and Stephen Emsley, Chris Hanna and George Runcie, Stuart Robertson and Alex Shaw next, the grid completed by Sandy Reid. So 19 cars showing on the grid, but 3 of those non-starting, Grant Anderson, Sandy Reid and Alex Shaw. But at the front, Dave Colville and George Orr will renew battle. 32nd ball going up there from the pit lane. And the countdown procedure very nearly done. George Orr with the win in race number 1. And Peter Cruikshank in the red XR2 having the XR2 win. Head of Wayne McCauley, who starts pretty close to him in this one. But George Orr in black. And we'll take a look at the front row in just a moment. Dave Colville in the red 52 machine. 2 lights on, 3, 4, getting ready to race. Round 2 of the 2012 Scottish Fiesta Championship. Great start by the front row, absolutely neck and neck. And George Orr's going to have the racing line run down into Duffer Strip for the first time. Good start by Wayne McCauley. Wayne McCauley, I think, has got around Peter Cruikshank, so cracking start for him. And here they come down into Scotsman Court. George Orr. Momentarily we had Dave Colville with his nose in front, but look at that, slots back in, read that well. Stuart Robertson is there in 3rd place and turns in and turns in front of Blair Murdoch. So, well, was that 50-50 or what? I don't know. And Scott Robertson facing the wrong way in the 62 car. Blair Murdoch, who made a bit of contact with him, has snuck through, but down towards the tail end of the field. So Robertson is going to be very disappointed with that one. We'll see whether he can get back on and make his way through the field. So really a first lap incident between those two. Wouldn't like to call it. I'm sure the officials will sort it out as we look back down the order and pick up the number 8 car, which is George Runcie, running in the STs this year, about to be passed by car number 23, Findlay Adams. Adams gets the manoeuvre completed very well indeed. There is Blair Murdoch, the ST, white ST with the black stripes, but back out front, Dave Culver here, second place car at the moment, still chasing George Orr. He's had a perfect first lap. Colville got his nose in front, but Orr made the racing line count down into Scotsman Corner and takes the lead. Third position, incredibly, is Wayne McCauley in the XR2. Well, it is a wet race, so you'd expect the difference between the two cars to be negated slightly. So Wayne McCauley leading the XR2s. Second in the XR2s and fourth overall at the moment is Peter Cruikshank. I think Hamish Smart we would have in third position in the XRs at the moment. So Wayne McCauley looking to add to the wins that he got last year. Wayne, of course, fourth in the championship last year. What a strong championship this is, whether it's the STs or the XRs. It produces some great drivers. There is Wayne again leading it at the moment quite comfortably from the veteran Peter Cruikshank. Stuart Haston in the yellow ST goes through shot. And then the main thrust of the battle for the XR2s, Mike Strong in the red number 5 car. So Strong goes through and climbing up the hill, so a good gaggle of cars. Here's the onboard facing back from Hamish Smart, car number 70, up over the brows. It's a little bit damp out there, but not as damp as it's been for some of the other races that we've seen here at Knockhill Circuit today. But these guys blowing off the cobwebs from the end of the 2011 season. So we had a little bit of damage in race number 1, which was a shame to see, but so far everyone working well here. There's Stephen Emsley, car number 34. Emsley leading Mike Strong, he's the red 5, just following him, and then Blair Murdoch making a recovery after his issues on the first lap of the race. So for his troubles, he's now got to deal with a bunch of the XR2s. Now this is familiar territory for him, because last year the ST started in a delayed grid, so they used to have to work their way through, and it was actually, having said that the wet's leveler, of course the wet was when the cars with the racing tyres, the STs, actually had extra performance and came through the field, so we'd expect to see them do a little bit better. There is Scott Robertson still running as well in the white and green striped ST, so I don't know if the car was damaged. I would have perhaps expected him to have been up with the car that he was in collision with, Blair Murdoch, but Blair's making his way through the field and going down to Scotsman Corner. This one a 10-lap race here at Knockhill Circuit, so Blair Murdoch still there in car number 85. Climbs up through John R. Weir, and a bit of work to do before he has to deal with any more traffic on circuit at the moment. It's going to be more XR2s for him to deal with. So Murdoch, the 26-year-old, second in the championship last year, and looking to build on that. He won't be best happy with his start to this one, but of course it's a long championship with 6 visits to Knockhill Circuit, and we look back and see George Runcie in car number 8 in the mix as well, and then Stuart Robertson about to put on a pass. Stephen Emsley and Mike Strong still involved in their little squabble. That's for 10th position overall. Dave's car on board through Hislops, and quite a bit of ground to make up at the moment. In terms of lap times in this one, we're looking at 67-second laps. Colville on his lap can certainly peg back, or in fact, if anything, he's probably put in a couple of slightly faster laps. So we'll see whether. Main thing is that he needs to just try and get on terms with him before he can execute a pass. But at the moment, he's just too far back. And George Orr, over the opening few laps of this race, really did seem to do the business. So Orr looking to build the championship points. He took pole position today, Culver in second. These two have been pretty much battling all day. Now, is it me, or is Culver beginning to close up a little bit? He looks closer here. Whether it's just this part of the circuit that's suiting the 52 car or not, I don't know. Still got Wayne McCauley leading the Fiesta XR2s, with Peter Cruikshank in second position. So those two swapping over. It's going to be a joint championship lead for them if things stay the way they are. Round his lots we go, heading down towards the hairpin. And George Orr it is that still leads. I think there's no doubt in my mind that the second place car of Dave Colville is beginning to reel in the race leader. So Colville starting to put a bit of pressure on here. Very neat and tidy, both of them through the hairpin. And that's the last lap board going up. So if Colville is on a charge, he may well have left it too late. Onto the last lap here at Knockhill. And George Orr, who has pretty much led every racing lap thus far this weekend. It was pole position, a win in race number 1, and here he is looking for win number 2. And you'd have to be a very brave man to bet against him taking this one. Past the stricken car of Finley Adams, who's off on the outside there at Scotsman Corner. So Finley Adams off and out of the race. That's what the flags were for. But it's George Orr out of John R. Weir for the last time. Dave Colville, is he going to think about having a look? I think he might be a length or so back from the race leader, who's coming up under back markers as well. It's Stuart Robertson who's the first back marker. Now whether they'll reach Struan before they get to the hairpin or not remains to be seen. There is the 20 car of Stuart Robertson into the tri-oval section, then closing stages of the race. George Orr it is that's there, and a challenge from Colville. Colville looks down the inside. What a perfectly timed manoeuvre from Colville. Well, that certainly took me by surprise. And Dave Colville into the race lead on the last corner. You couldn't time it better than that. And there's the checkered flag as Orr fights back. George Orr fights back. It's a 10th between them at the checkered flag. And there's Wayne McCauley. He wins the XR2s. Behind him it's Stuart Aston, Blair Murdoch and Peter Cruikshank will take second in the XR2s. Blair Murdoch comes through for 5th overall, but what a stunning last lap. What a brilliant weekend's racing for George Orr. Leads everything but the last lap of race 2. Dave Colville the winner from George Orr. Wayne McCauley wins the XR2s. Stuart Aston's 4th. Blair Murdoch 5th, Peter Cruikshank runner-up in the XRs. Then it was Scott Robertson recovering for 7th and fastest lap. Hamish Smart, Mike Strong, George Runcie, Stephen Ward 11th and Stephen Russell next. Stephen Emsley in 13th place ahead of Chris Hanna, with Stuart Robertson in 15th.
I'm here with the top 2 from the Fiesta ST in a different order this time from race 1. Let's start with Dave, since you're closest. Dave, at the start there, neither of you had driven with these tyres in the wet conditions before. No. It was the first time for both of you. No one knew how it was going to pan out, and Dave just had the upper hand there, experience-wise, we'll say, shall we? Age-wise.
Age, yeah. No, it was good fun. George races clean. I've raced against George many years ago, and I think we were both in the same boat. We were a bit taking it steady the first few laps, just trying to find how they were gripping, and we gradually built up the pace, and I think it was getting a little drier as well towards the end. So yeah, it's good fun.
Great result. It's a while since we've seen a Dave Colville win, but it's great to see. Congratulations.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks a lot, buddy.
And I'll move across to George. You've set it up for a great season ahead. It's going to be exciting. That's a win each, so I'm guessing level in points when you think about fastest laps or whatever, but basically level in points.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's going to be a good season, I think.
A good tight battle.
Yeah, a good tight clean battle, I hope.
It's also great to see the Fiesta STs starting where they qualified.
Yeah, it kind of suits it a bit better. Plus, well, I suppose it makes it less interesting for us because we didn't need to come through the XR2s. Dave's never had that because he was one of the XR2s last year, but no, it's good. It's good. I enjoyed that.
Well done, guys. We'll see you next time.
No worries. Thanks, Joe.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in this week's programme. Join us again soon for some more exciting Scottish Formula Ford and Fiesta Championship racing.